What's up, everyone? Marc, Lobliner, tigerfitness.com. We get this a lot, this debate. Has steroid use in sports, in bodybuilding, has it gotten worse over time? I used to always say the wrong numbers. I'm here after doing the research to kind of correct myself. The average NFL lineman in the 1980s weighed 272 pounds. It is now 2022. And the average offensive lineman in the NFL weighs 314 pounds. It's a lot of weight, right? Like 50 pounds. It's crazy. Is it really, though? Think about it. Since that time, more people are getting into football. Taller individuals who play the line, these 6'6", 6'8" guys, they might have stayed small and played, I don't know, basketball, some other tall person sport, or just not played sports at all. Now you got these big, tall, husky individuals who are being born. We have more people in the world. We have different races, different genetic powers or strengths blending together and creating super athletes, creating basically genetically modified athletes where you're combining the strengths of, let's say, Eastern Europeans with West Africans. We have that. We're a melting pot, as is sports. So is there more drug use in sports? I don't know if there's more, but I think there's always been drug use. You know, I love in the bodybuilding world how we always point to Reg Park and the golden era and Arnold. Back in Arnold's days, I can argue what they were doing was even less safe than what they're doing now. Now these guys know. I know these guys. I'm an IFBB pro myself. I'm not competing on the Olympia stage. That's not silly. But I know these guys. They're getting blood work done 2, 3, 4 times a year. They're monitoring stuff. They're getting calcium CT scans for their heart. And they're taking a lot of injectables. They're taking a lot of other things that are not oral. They're injectable, which bypasses that first pass through the liver. Back in Arnold's day, they took a lot of Primo, which is a pretty safe injectable, right? But what they used to do, they used to just pop pills. They used to take D-bowls by the handful. Even when I was a kid in like the 90s, right? Like you go to Gold's Venice and they were like just taking pills. And if they wanted to gain more weight, they just took more pills. Everybody makes it sound like they were safer back then. No, they just didn't have enough stuff. They didn't have enough cool stuff. Did they use insulin? 90s? Yeah. 90s, they were using plenty of Synthol. On stage at the 99 Olympia, Nasser El-Sun Bodies dealt literally started leaking Synthol. Talk about the golden era. The 90s and the early 2000s were the best ever. Literally, dudes were on stage flexing, and oil would come leaking out of their shoulders. This happened in Long Beach, the 99 Mr. Olympia. So you're telling me that we have gotten worse with drugs? I actually think we've just gotten the same with drugs. Drugs have always been a factor. Do you know when a lot of the steroid publications were written, were discovered, a lot of these patents applied for? In the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, steroids were around. They were legal up until the early 90s. Steroids were legal up until the early 90s. Imagine if steroids were legal now. Honestly, what would happen is you'd get better stuff. The problem now is that you got a bunch of guys who are using a bunch of stuff that are either underdosed or not even the compound on the label. And that's the reason, well, Marc, you're on. I'm like, I'm not doing black. You're on Beyond TRT. No, I'm not. Why not? Why wouldn't you be? Well, because I don't know what the hell's in the bottle. And maybe if I knew I was getting quality stuff, I'd mega dose. I don't know. But if you buy testosterone, trenbolone, which obviously couldn't be prescribed anyway because it's for cows, you know, Masteron, Primobolan, whatever, and it's not prescribed by a doctor like my doctor, I'll link down below, at Hormone Health and Wellness, takes care of all my stuff, keeps my blood work nice and pretty and pristine, and makes sure that I am a anabolic beast. Just kidding. He keeps me healthy. I'm old. I'm 42. I'm just trying to be able to play with I'm 42 next month. I'm just trying to be able to play with my kids and look jack in a tank top. That's all I want to do. And I want to be healthy. I want to have all this energy, be able to do these videos, be able to think optimally. So I recommend them, obviously. But that's besides the point. You look at records that were broken in the 80s, right? You look at before there was testing. I'd argue now, I'd argue now that it's going to be harder to break records unless it was something other than steroids. Hear me out. They weren't testing for steroids in baseball in the 90s, in the early 90s, in the late 80s, in the early 80s. You don't think in the 80s and 90s, when it was legal, you could just literally just use steroids willy-nilly, not get tested? You're telling me that nobody, these guys, and granted, I remember I was watching the Nolan Ryan documentary on Netflix. If you haven't seen it yet, you got to watch it. I'm watching this shit, and like, they only got paid. Nolan Ryan was making like 30 grand a year when he started. It wasn't what it is now, but to be a pro athlete, for me, wouldn't be about money. Money would help. I love money. Like, honestly, I know this fucking cabin didn't pay for itself. But here's the thing, like, I would want to be a pro athlete to be a pro athlete. I sacrificed a lot to become a pro bodybuilder. How much money have I made? 1, 2, 3. I made zero. It's cost me money to be a pro bodybuilder. Even without drugs, even without doing the drugs, because I'm on the TRT thing. It's all prescribed to be taking it anyway, right? Like, even without the drugs, like the food, the time, the opportunity cost. Bodybuilding has cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout the years, probably. But I do because it's fucking competitive, man. You're a pro. You're a pro fucking athlete. Nolan Ryan didn't become a baseball player for millions of dollars. That came because he loved the game. If you love the game, you'll prosper at it. You'll be better. You'll train harder. You got to have that love for the game. That's what separates. When you play for money, it's different than when you play for the love of the game, the love of competition. Do I love bodybuilding? Nah, I don't really love bodybuilding. I love the act of competing. So it could be bodybuilding, powerlifting, badminton, air hockey, whatever I'm doing, I'm competing. Bodybuilding just happens to be what I'm not terrible at. I'm terrible at everything else. The one other thing I was pretty good at was football, but I'm only like 4 foot tall. That didn't work. So you're telling me, you look at me in the eyes, You're telling me that now that we have testing protocols, we have WADA up everyone's ass. Oh yeah, science is so far ahead. Imagine if you didn't have to worry about passing a drug test. You're playing the NFL, okay? It's 1986. You got a big vial of testosterone. You got a big vial of Deca. You got a big vial of whatever vial is. You got a handful of D-ball pills. And you want to go out on the field and compete against Bill Romanowski, who was juiced to the gills. You want to compete against anybody from the 1980s Bears or Steelers. You're telling me that you're not going to take steroids. Oh, but they might decrease your life. You're on a field. You're 272 pounds. Okay? You're running full speed head first into somebody. You're telling me you give a fuck about your health? Dude, they pulled Olympic athletes. Almost 100% of them said they would give up 10 years of their life to win a medal. Not a gold medal, a medal. Gold, silver, or bronze. Winning is everything in life to these athletes. Shit, winning's everything in life to me. I trade places with Ronnie Coleman right now to be the greatest of all time. I'd be walking around with canes. I'd be on pain pills. I don't give a fuck. He's the greatest of all time. That's a legacy. Look, man, it's a different mindset for winners, for athletes. If you don't have that mindset, that's good because we need some people to survive. The athletes are the one who die early. You ever hear of an NFL lineman living to 100 years old? You ever hear of an elite athlete living past the age of 80? You hear all the time, these guys died, these guys died, these guys died. Muhammad Ali with his brain trauma, this, that, and the third. If you're a large, muscular athlete, unless you're like a fucking runner or something, you're dying early. You're taking years off your life. I don't care if you're on drugs, you're off drugs. If you're competing at that level, you're going to die young. If you're a large individual, you go to a nursing home, there's nobody over 6'5". The bigger you are, the harder you die. It is what it fucking is. These athletes are bigger, stronger, faster. They're putting a beating on their bodies every time they go out there. They run, they expend them. I'm not talking about going on a jog or training at Lifetime Fitness 4 days a week. I'm talking about training to the level to be the best in the world at what you fucking do. You're going to fucking die. I don't think we have more drug use. I think we have drug use. I think there's always going to be people using drugs in athletics. Whether it's fucking weekend softball, whether it's fucking college football, whether it's fucking the MLB, whether it's the UFC, I don't care what it is. You could test all you want. We're going to take drugs. Why are we going to take drugs? We, speaking as a professional athlete, a very poor one, but I'm in that club. I'm not very good at it. At the end of the day, why? We do it because we fucking want to win. We do it because we want to be better. And we know everybody else is fucking doing it. And they've always been doing it, man. Oh, well, Reg Park in the bodybuilding. Fuck, shut up. Shut the fuck up. Reg Park. Steve Reeve. You're telling me that they didn't have steroids in the 40s? You're telling me that they didn't have steroids back then? You're telling me Babe Ruth did it on hot dogs and fucking beer? Shut up. You're wrong. At the end of the day, no matter what phase of history, and whether it was the Greeks, whatever the fuck they did, whoever it was, if they had a chance to get an edge on their competition, they fucking got it. Whether it was steroids, whether it was whatever. And you're telling me these guys are sleeping in fucking oxygen tanks, increasing their red blood cell counts? You know, when I was a kid, let me give you a story, guys, story time. When I was a kid, I went to Culver City High School, okay? We weren't a poor school. We definitely weren't a rich school. A lot of kids were bussed in from either Inglewood or other surrounding areas. Not everybody lived in Culver City. Wasn't expensive like it is now at the time. Culver City was somewhat affordable. Okay, Culver City right now, you can't get a garage for under $2.6 million. Okay, check it out. We played Beverly Hills. They were our rivals, the Normans. Fuck Beverly, right? Hated them. We didn't play them till the last game of the year, and all we talked about all year, didn't matter what was happening, was beating Beverly. Here's why. We were jealous. Why? Because they had everything we didn't have. They had top-of-the-line trainers. They had top-of-the-line coaches. Their coach was making more than our entire school probably brought in for athletic programs. Guess what? Guess what? That's an unfair competitive advantage. Poor kids playing against rich kids. You have a nutritionist. You got a trainer. We had Coach Miles, who was an amazing man, but he wasn't going to tell us how to eat. What he did, he's like, hey, kids, practice over. McDonald's is over there off Sawtell. Go. That was our nutritionist. There's nothing fair about sports. At the end of the day, look where club soccer is going. Look at all this shit, right? Like the reason I was able to get out of my situation is because I was able to get financial aid because I played football. I was able to get out of my situation. Where are all the scholarships going? In club sports, kids who can afford $10,000 a year for club soccer. You don't even want to know what I pay Tennessee Soccer Club for my kids to play there. If you're on ECNL, you're paying like $6,000 a year. Plus, you got to pay for other things like parent travel. You're out 10 to 20K a year per kid. Travel hockey, travel baseball, that's a whole nother ball game. So it's the haves and have-nots. So basically, the people who can afford shit, that's the unfair competitive advantage. So when you see a pro athlete, if you see a bodybuilder, look, man, are we on drugs? Probably. That guy's probably on drugs. Is he on more drugs than a guy in the 80s? Think about it, man. 274 pounds in the 80s when drugs were legal. Okay? And you didn't have as many people playing football. Dude, at my son's football club, my son, Brentwood Blaze, the best football program in the damn country. Coach Mike, love the guy. Best organization ever. I love them. Best time I've ever had in my life. Guess what? There's hundreds of kids. It's one city. We got the Franklin Football Club. We got like 10 clubs in Murfreesboro. We got Nashville. There's more people playing football. There's more opportunity to find the genetic freaks. I kept saying this every day. Doug Miller's not natural. I'm not going to take up for Doug. Doug, is he natural or not? I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, check it out. There could be 10 guys living. Look at all these houses, right? There could be 20 people around these houses with the same genetics as Doug Miller, but they ain't never picked up a weight. So what happens is there's a lot of guys with the genetics of a Ray Lewis, of a Lawrence Taylor, of a Mike Singletary back in the day, but they're actually trying the sport. You don't know you have it till you got it. I didn't know I was good at football till I went out and I knocked somebody's head off. I didn't know I was good at bodybuilding till I lost weight and I noticed, oh my God, I have a small waist because I was a fat lineman when I was a kid. The reason people are getting better isn't because of drugs. It's not because of drugs. It's because there's more fucking people playing more sports. But don't get me wrong, we're all on drugs. Anyway, like this video, subscribe to this channel, click on the notification bell. Let me know your thoughts down below. I know you natty militants are going to come in, not natty, Kenny KO for the win. I love you, Kenny. That's not a game. Training intensity is everything. If you want to build muscle, if you want to get better, if you want to go hard, you need to train intense. A lot of pre-workouts, they get you intense. But then what happens? You crash. A lot of pre-workouts, they give you the pump, but then what happens? It wears off. A lot of pre-workouts, they'll give you all that stuff, but it doesn't add to your endurance. I want to be able to lift heavy. I want to be able to feel the pump. I want veins bulging from every single part of my body. I want to lift heavier weights every single time. I want to run farther. I want to run faster. I want to push harder, and I want to get bigger, stronger, and faster. And that's why I created Clash 3D. This pre-workout is next level, featuring 3D pump, Vasodrive AP, and a lot of other epic ingredients. Guys, this is the pre-workout that you need to take your workouts and your performance and your physique to the next level.